Tribalness.
Babylon must fall. He said it.
The state has appealed. So at the moment we have to counter appeal. We're not only going to counter appeal the appeal, but also the original judgment as well. It was a concession, it was nowhere near to justice, and it actually set aside my documents and then wrote a thesis about privacy and our rights. But there were many other rights that we claimed, including the right to economic use of this sustainable resource in industry and energy. And then also our rights to gather in large groups as a culture, which is not permitted by the judgment, and then also equality. We are sued for equality with alcohol and tobacco users, and those laws should be giving guidelines to attitudes about legislation as to how it is used in public. Licensed coffee bars, the right to smoke a joint in a park, the right to carry cannabis on your person, just like a person carries cigarettes on their person, those kind of laws. No under 18, for example. Well, the present opinion polls are for legalization about legalization, standing at about 75 to 80%. So if we can take that point of view, which is beyond tipping point already, and apply it to our electoral system and create a new political structure out of this community, this cannabis culture. And the format that we are trying to actually create is firstly ward groups, you could say a tribe centered around the tree, cooperative groupings that make the neighborhood safer and more successful and more economically coordinated. Yes, and then out of that, the leadership would be chosen by the locals to create a list of 400 candidates, and perhaps a second list which would be in case of backup, in case people can't fill their position, and then to mobilize these groups in the communities along ward boundaries to just register to vote and vote for a platform that they believe in. And that we're offering the Dagga Party of South Africa. It's a nationally registered political party. It's building its networks. We're on social media, and we're also linked up to the rest of the legalization movement, the Dagga couple, Bongalong, and all of the other groups that are participating there today. So the way forward is to take Parliament as a cannabis mass action through the ballot, peacefully, in such a way that we've agreed on certain issues and that we have selected quality candidates, and press reset on the present corporate-controlled parliamentary system. Everything's in a state of flux and change at the moment. It's not legal yet, you've got to bear that in mind, act discreetly. Don't let it stop you claiming your rights. Build your culture. I think the police are realizing that their prosecutions are going to go nowhere, because we can stay a prosecution now by application to the High Court, pending the outcome of the constitutional ratification of the final deal. And let's rather do that sooner than later, because it's costing our state a fortune, and it's harming people with criminal records that are going to have to be taken away with administrative processes later, because it's going to be wiped. We're going to, as I say, press reset on rights, on the environment, on how markets are manipulated so that we only stay consumers and have no resources to be producers, but cannabis is the resources. Well, literally, to grow cannabis means a growth economy. I think it's got to be made something that our farmers can farm, and we can have it in urban agriculture as well. If we grew cannabis with wastewater, we'd have a whole new wealth from nowhere. This plant has got to replace fossil carbon to the maximum extent possible, along with other technologies, I think like solar and wind. And so we've got to actually jump from cannabis, from fossil carbon onto cannabis carbon to be a sustainable planet. And I think people know that we're a scientific creature, and it's only the few ignorants that are still sort of stuck in their old 1950s reefer madness that was actually fake propaganda. And now the truth is out, and now it's a case of organizing towards being a new culture with a political force and a new kind of stability and sustainability for the future. Yeah, for sure. Well, that was a malicious agenda that actually was a criminal act, an anti-competitive process in the American government. It all started in the 1920s with the alcohol prohibition. John D. Rockefeller Sr. sponsored the alcohol prohibition through the Christian temperance unions and anti-saloon leagues. There is a thesis which lists how much he spent to prohibit alcohol. That wasn't to save people from this drug, as they call it. It was to get rid of people's access to energy, because every farm had an ethanol still on it, and every farmer could sell ethanol to any car going past from any place where he was growing maize or biomass. And that is why the alcohol prohibition took place. It was an anti-competitive agenda against ethanol by fossil carbon. And then in the very year that in 1937, when a new machine, a roller-bearing decorticator, was tested at a Rockefeller paper mill, Rockefeller knew that this was a threat to fossil carbon and his logging enterprises, and also knew that it was also in medicine, which cut into his sales of patent medicines, which he was also in. So there is a specific source of this historical prohibition, and it was then because those economic elites have long since infiltrated government structures. They created the police state for their own interests, okay, and to keep us away from this resource, which would actually set us economically free. So that's the roots of the story. The same bankers that funded Rockefeller were the same bankers that funded Cecil John Rhodes, okay, and it suits those bankers because to have a prohibition, because it's also about cannabis as collateral, cannabis as backing for currency. A cannabis culture wouldn't need fiat currency. I think those elites with their trillions actually suffer from a poverty, a real poverty of spirit, because this could be a planet where some people, you wouldn't have to accumulate more than abundance for everybody, and it is possible to model a world which is a sustainable planet, is in balance with biodiversity and the natural environment, and the key to this is the cannabis. So yes, it allows us to become an ecological species, and not just for a few while the rest live in poverty on rubbish dumps. It could be a beautiful planet for all. And I think those elites should actually consider this point of view and say, well, okay, let's let it happen. We can write this future anyway we want it to go. I want an abundant ecological planet for my people and our youth and our children and all species. I don't want a police state. And why do they want a police state? It's just really stupid, you know? Yeah.